Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project and the CRC, the Chicago Rabbinical Council. Today I am honored to be joined by Rabbi Yosef Landa, Rabbinic Coordinator at the CRC. How are you, Rabbi Landa?
Okay, Baruch Hashem, how are you?
Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
You're a mashgiach with the CRC, the Chicago Rabbinical Council.
Correct.
And one of your expertises is the area of dairy, correct?
Correct.
What does that generally involve before we get into our topic today?
Well, dairy, as you can imagine, is milk, obviously, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, the main staple dairy products. I do some other smattering of some other types of companies also, but mainly those type of products.
Now, I recall years ago, I don't know if this topic has arisen of late, but I remember years ago when there was a big tumult about the stomachs of cows, the abomasum, that they were either punctured, there were holes in the abomasum. So for the lay person, give us a little overview about what the issue was then, how the issue was resolved if it was, and whether that's a concern still today.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So about approximately 30 years ago, I forget exactly when, as time goes on, it was discovered that it was not very common, but not rare, of a condition that the cows developed. One of their stomachs became, displaced from its normal place. It's usually associated with soon after a cow gives birth, when it has like a cavity, has like an extra space that wasn't there before, and the stomach falls out of place. It can be on the left side or the right side. It was called LDA and RDA, left displaced abomasum and right displaced abomasum. One is more dangerous than the other, but it needs to be corrected. And it was discovered that the standard, it seemed, or at least one of the ways of correcting this, was to puncture the abomasum. We call it keva in the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch and the Gemara, and which is a treifa. You puncture this organ, it's a treifa. So this created a shaila for all the dairy products in the United States. I mean, because if certainly got chalav stam, where there's no presence of the hashgacha on the farm, we don't know anything really what's going on over there. We just take the milk as being kosher inherently, as a heter of chalav stam. But even Chol Yisrael, when we have a mashgiach there on the farm, but same issue. They weren't looking or tracking and finding out, which cows had this procedure and which didn't. And these cows gave milk into the general collection of milk that the farm produced, and it was, when I'm making a Chol Yisrael product, you carefully isolate that milk and send it in a tanker to a different facility that actually makes the whatever dairy product, but you got the same problem. So, this problem came up approximately 30 years ago or so. So at the time, Chalav Yisrael, Hashgach and Chalav Yisrael, what they moved to do is to isolate those cows. In other words, when the mashgiachim were sent to a farm to do hashgacha on Chalav Yisrael, they would segregate those cows. They would segregate those cows out, and they would not use the milk from those cows. I'm not sure, how soon after the tumult arose, but pretty soon after that, that's what Chalav Yisrael decided to do, and that's been implemented, and it still continues till this day. That's been implemented. Any Chalav Yisrael hashgacha in the United States does not take milk from these cows. They're segregated out. It's a standing system. When you go to any farm, when you want to set up Chalav Yisrael, that's one of the things that you got to take care of. You got to have a system of tracking, and the mashgiach has to, usually there's a computer system of cows have tags in their ears when they in any sophisticated farm, and most are today. There was a lot of consolidation of farms. Smaller farms all had to consolidate. There was a lot of pressure in the dairy industry not too many years ago, so they consolidated. And most farms have this type of system where a cow, when it gets up to be milked, they have the tag in the ear, electronically read, and the whole system of tracking the health of all the cows, and they know which cows have undergone which procedures, and we have a system of removing these cows from being used when we use Chol Yisrael. So that's what was done, and that continues till this day, and that's a Maila. That's a Maila that you avoid this entire Shaila when you take Chol Yisrael.
And just to clarify, I know this is a very elementary thing what I'm going to say, but if someone out there watching this doesn't understand, the reason why milk or cheese that comes from such an animal is because once the animal's a treifa, so anything that comes from a treifa is considered treifa as well. I know it's
correct. The animal's treifed and the milk is treifed. That's the deraisa in the Torah. The animal is a treifa. This is a treifa deraisa. I mean, so the milk is also b'achilas deraisa. Now, however, very important to note, the shaila, however, is only the rabbanon. The shaila itself is not a deraisa shaila because of the rule that min b'minoi batul b'roiv. In other words, you got treif milk. It was certainly not majority of the cows. No farm had a majority of the cows. The highest was, at the time, what they were looking into it, maybe 5% of the cows or something like that. So it's not batul b'shishim, but midaraisa bitul b'roiv is enough. Min b'minoi, since you can't taste the difference between treif milk and not treif milk, so it's min b'minoi is batul b'roiv, but midrabanan it's not batul. Midrabanan is drabanan. So it was a shiloh of drabanan. So that's less of a serious shiloh. So maybe there's room here and there to be makel, but it was a problem.
Right. I also wanted to point out that for those who are makbar on Chol Yisrael, besides for the Chol Yisrael Chol Stam issue, this would be another reason, another benefit, so to speak, of drinking Chol Yisrael, that Chol Yisrael obviates any concern of having these abomesim issues.
Right.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this particular topic?
So that's what Chol Yisrael did. But even CRC, most of our products that we certify, we have a little bit of Chol Yisrael. Most of the products we certify are Chol Stam, as well as the major national hashkachas that everybody's familiar with. Most of them are Chol Stam, so that did not take care of the issue of Chol Stam. Now the truth is, for Chol Yisrael it was worse. The Shiloh was worse.
On Chol Yisrael farms?
Yes. The reason why the Shiloh was worse is because we know what's going on. There's a presence on the farm, and we can learn, we can find out. The Meshkiach could see, if he's watching and looking at the cows, you can see, if you're a cow that had a recent surgery, you can see an incision. A healing incision on the side of the cow. You could see it. If you're looking for it, you could see it. If you're not paying attention, you're not going to see it. I mean, it heals kind of quick, and you're not going to, if they're well, you're not going to see it, but you could see it. So you can know what's going on, or you could talk to the people. They have a computer system. You can find out. So in a way, the Shiloh was worse. They really had because they could be mavar, so to speak. Which
on the non-Chol Yisrael farms, they were not tracking which cows had undergone this procedure.
No, the farm itself is tracking, but you, the consumer, and even us, the hashgacha, when it comes to non-Chol Yisrael, we have no connection whatsoever to the farm at all. In other words, we certify a dairy processing facility that has pasteurizers and homogenizers and fillers and and packaging and everything. That's where hashgacha starts. We make sure that everything is, because it's heated equipment. You got to make sure that there's vitamins, whatever you got. The stuff to make sure it's kosher when it comes to the dairy processing facility. But we didn't have any connection to the farm. You can have a milk manufacturing facility that gets milk from 100 different farms. Okay, it's probably less now. I remember asking once company how many farms they get from this. About 100 around the area over here. That was years ago. Now there was a consolidation, so it's probably less than that now. But still, they get from quite a few farms, and there is no presence of the hashgacha whatsoever on the farm. So we don't know anything. We didn't know anything. So over here it was good. We didn't know anything. We don't know. So I'll explain in a minute. That was a mila. When if you're present at the farm, it was worse. So we made it better. It was worse. We made it better that we don't take any milk from these cows. So the question is, so what was the heter? The hashgachas all decided that they continue doing what they're doing.
Right.
It was a doichek, but that's, we wanted to have a good heter. We wanted to make a heter that makes sense. So at that time, there were different, they looked into what exactly the procedure was. Without, going into all the details, but so they thought, they found, they saw that it was done in a way that it was not treifa. The incision, maybe the puncture maybe wasn't done straight through. There were other methods to that it can accomplish the same thing, and perhaps that it wasn't treif. Also, some wanted to say a chiddush that we see that these cows don't die within 12 months, right? Right? That's what's supposed to happen to a treif cow. So you could say a chiddush that if it's done obviously when it's done in this setting in this manner, it doesn't seem to be treif. But that's a chiddush. That's a very big chiddush. reluctant to rely on that. But initially, it seemed that they did rely on on the svara that it doesn't actually, the way it's done doesn't actually make a treif. But then it was revisited a few years later because we saw that the reports coming that plenty of places it's done in a way that's a classic treifa. I mean, if without any chedushim, it's a treifa. So it was revisited, and so there was a conference call, and so Rabbi Solbelsky Zatzal at that time said, and this is a svara that was said originally, but that Lamaisa you have a roif. Lamaisa in all cows, classically it is 10% treif, right? I mean, we find more today, so because we're machmer, but there are cows that are treif, right? The difference is we don't know. Nobody knows. Since inside the lungs of you can't, it's not checked to know. So okay, why? But somebody has a cow in his backyard. It's possible it's treif. He's allowed to drink the milk, right? Because he go bust the roif. The Torah says you allowed to go bust the roif. So he said it's the same thing over here. We don't know. We don't have a presence. We don't have presence at the farms. We don't know. There are methods that don't make a treif. So it's the same roif. You got the same roif, and that's what you could be saying, Mechan. The concern is that is there somebody that knows. There is the farmers do know, but it's extreme. It's to set this up, to make this change. That if they understand that they're not going to gain anything by this, they only have to lose. They're not going to give us this information. Why in the world should they change their whole system and say, Rabbi, if we don't tell you anything, we're going to have to tell them the truth. It's accepted. So it's really not possible to find out. It's really not possible to find out. The only way to do it was to say, listen, okay, we're not going to give you a hechsher unless you do this. So for that, it's Chal of Yisrael. So, but Al Pidin, we have this same roiv that we don't know, and any cow out there could be treif, but the halacha is that you go bust the roiv and it's accepted. And even though once you mix all the milk together, there's a high probability that there's going to be, even at that time, there's because the situation got better because the numbers improved. The numbers of the
cows that got the surgeries what's different today than from 30 years ago?
But even then,
what is different? What is different today than 30 years ago?
Right. So what's different today is somebody wrote a sefer. His name is Manas Blumenfrucht. The sefer is called Chol of Treifa, and he reanalyzed the whole thing and did a tremendous amount of polling to many different farms, and he found, and I found that in my experience as well. At the CRC, and we've heard that the numbers of the amount of treifas have gone down. Years ago, the first farm I had to work with, working for the CRC, the numbers was like 5%, approximately 5%. I've had experience with approximately, I'd say 20 farms maybe. In the past 10 years, Kamat, they don't have any. They don't have any. They have one, they have none. They get rid of them. I've read someplace that the veterinaries also say that they don't have as many. It used to be a more common procedure. It's less common procedure. I don't know the reasons. I'm sure there are reasons for why maybe they got better at controlling. In different parts of the country, also originally there were different numbers. So possibly they just have better systems at maybe of the feed or of controlling this. And it's at the farms it seems to be a lot better. So then there's a chance now, very possible chance now that there's bittul, or is at least it's batul b'shishim, or at least there's a suffix. At least you're getting milk. It's a suffix. It's a suffix rabbanon. Now he wants to argue in the sefer after going through 18 chapters of why he really thinks it's treif. The procedure is treif, and then he talks about how the polling that he did and the information that he found out. It seems to be that the situation has improved, the numbers are much better, and it's at least, you can make a good argument that it's at least a suffix, and it's a suffix that I'm on the cooler.
Very interesting. Rabbi Landau, thank you for being here today.